by the time Idi Amin chased the Indians, which was 1972, he had been killing us with the Africans. He had been killing us from the beginning, from the word go. And we were fighting him. So they cannot be, we didn't support Idi Amin. We are the ones who fought him from the beginning, and we are the ones who got rid of him. So whom are they afraid of? We, who defeated Idi Amin, or whom? Idi Amin is no longer there.
This is the journey to One Africa.
Hello and welcome to We On Global Leadership Series with me, Eric Njoka. My guest today needs no introduction. He is a head of state in East Africa. I will be talking to the President of the Republic of Uganda, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, who is joining us from the capital, Kampala. Mr. President, it is such an honor and thank you very much for this privilege. Welcome to We On.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to talk to you.
Mr. President, allow me to start our conversation from the recent summit of the heads of state of the Commonwealth. You are among the participants in the conference. I know so much was discussed and agreed upon, but critics argue that the Commonwealth has lost touch. Many governments and countries have parted ways with the organization. So I will ask the same question to you, sir. Has the Commonwealth lost relevance, and is it about time it reinvented itself?
I don't think so. I think the Commonwealth is very useful. It is one of the few clubs where you communicate in one language without translations. And the members have a lot of links, social links, historical links, links through religion, the Christian religion. It can actually be used more, in my opinion. In our opinion, we think we can use it more.
Okay, I understand, Mr. President. Let's move away from that and let's talk about the animosity in Rwanda and the DRC. We are receiving reports that more refugees are fleeing to your country. The conflict is still ongoing. Lieutenant General Muhoozi, who is also your son, was accused of fueling tensions through posting on his Twitter, which I'm told you have already advised him to stop. But in essence, you are among the leaders who met in Nairobi over the conflict. The president's ordered the deployment of forces to the area. However, DRC residents are opposed to the deployment. Blame game is very high, Mr. President. What is really causing this rift, and what can be done to stop this?
The problem of security in Congo started at independence when Prime Minister Lumumba was killed. And then you had got agents of foreign interests taking over power in the form of Mobutu. Congo has never settled properly. And the immediate problem now is that actually for a long time, Congo has been either supporting or harboring the enemies of other countries. The Mobutu used to support Savimbi of Angola, used to support Holden Roberto of Angola. We have got ADF in Congo, we have got other groups from Uganda, then you have groups from Rwanda, the Interahamwe. So that's really the origin of the problem. The Congo either supporting or simply harboring these enemies of other countries, of the neighboring countries. But now we have got a regional forum, the East African Forum, chaired by His Excellency Kenyatta. And we think now this problem can be solved because we talked frankly in Nairobi. Yes, the external players may make their own mistakes, but the original problem started with the Congo.
You have mentioned consistently DR Congo, but you've not mentioned Rwanda. What role does Rwanda play in this whole conflict?
Well, how Rwanda started with Congo was that there was an internal problem in Rwanda, which started in 1959, started by the Belgians, who massacred Tutsis and sided with some local traitors called the Hutu extremists. Now that generated a Tutsi diaspora from 1959, which stayed out of Rwanda until 1990 when they made a comeback. And in the fight, the foreigners decided to back the Hutu extremists to kill 1 million people. You must have heard of that, the genocide. Then the Tutsis now. Then, but this did not save the Hutu regime. The Hutu regime was defeated, and they fled with their supporters to Goma, to Eastern Congo, with their arms. And we begged Mobutu to disarm them. He refused, until the Tutsis in Eastern Congo, called Banyamulenge, took up arms and attacked these Hutus, who then. So that's the whole problem. For me, I don't want to say this one is to blame. We know the problem. The problem started with, as I told you, Congo being either supporting or harboring, and then the outsiders can also make their own mistakes, but the original problem is the other one. Because if it was not there, it would not be possible for Rwanda, for instance, to be involved in Congo 1990. No, 1994.
Okay, Mr. President, over the past months, the continent has been facing a spate of violence, including in the Sahel, West Africa, Ethiopia, Sudan, and now East Africa, which includes DRC and Rwanda. What do you think about the role of the organizations like the African Union, ECOWAS, and SADC? Are they weak? Do they assist the continent in any way?
They are weak, but they assist. They can assist. For instance, in the decolonization of Africa, when we were chasing the whites and the Portuguese from Africa in Mozambique, in Angola, Zimbabwe, Ian Smith, South Africa, the African OAU played a crucial role by supporting the liberation movements. After we defeated the whites in Southern Africa, there was some relaxation and some diversion, some lack of concentration. That's how we allowed NATO to attack Libya. We should not have allowed it. We should have confronted NATO, but we didn't. So the consequences, all this chaos you are seeing in Niger, in Burkina Faso, in Mali, and so on. But these organizations can, like we did when we defeated the Portuguese and defeated Ian Smith and defeated the whites in South Africa and in Namibia and in Guinea-Bissau. These organizations have the potential. They have the potential, we have the capacity to really save Africa from these criminals and traitors and imperialists.
Now that you've mentioned that, Mr. President, what do you think about the late Gaddafi's analogy that United States of Africa is feasible and can and should be formed?
I never supported Gaddafi's idea or Nkrumah's idea. It was not only Gaddafi, even Nkrumah believed in an all-African Union government. I never supported that. What I support and what I supported was what is already taking place, the continental free trade area, which can become an African common market. Economic integration for the whole of Africa, but political integrations for parts that are either similar or compatible, like, for instance, East and Central Africa, which are very similar or compatible.
Thank you, Mr. President, for your feedback. Mr. President, let's now move away from that and talk about your country and you now. The World Bank has just released a report that says Uganda remains a low-income country. Prior to this report, you had said the economy had risen to middle-income status. Why is there a contradiction between what you said and the World Bank?
Well, what I said was that the GDP per capita now at $1,046 has just entered the middle income bracket, which is $1,036 or $39. But in order to be declared official, I said so in my speech, you need to maintain that or surpass it for 3 consecutive years. So there is no contradiction. There is no contradiction. It must be I didn't say we have already become, I said we are entering.
Mr. President, Uganda is now looking at boosting trade with India, but there's a slight problem. There are some Indians who are wary and still have bad memories of the Idi Amin Asia expulsion saga. What is your government doing to enhance this relationship, and what is your message to the Indians who are still jittery?
By the time Idi Amin chased the Indians, which was 1972, he had been killing us with the Africans. He had been killing us from the beginning, from the word go. And we were fighting him. So they cannot be, we didn't support Idi Amin. We are the ones who fought him from the beginning, and we are the ones who got rid of him. So whom are they afraid of? We, who defeated Idi Amin, or whom? Idi Amin is no longer there. We fought him. We are the ones who fought him. When I went to London, I told them that, I told those Indians of Uganda there that the only bush you know here is Shepherd's Bush, where they go to buy chapati and things like that. That's the only bush they know. For us, we know the real bush. So those Indians are just either not informed or they don't bother to know the facts.
Mr. President, allow me to ask you the same question, but on a different light. Have you reached out to the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi? Have you invited him to Uganda? Have you talked to the Prime Minister? Have you told him that you want to visit India and clear the errors of Idi Amin?
Narendra Modi came here even before he became Prime Minister of the whole of India. He came here when he was Prime Minister of one of the provinces of India. And we returned the property of all the Indians, the 4,000 little properties which Idi Amin had taken, we gave them all back. So, and they are here, they came back, many of them came back. They know.
So the relationship is good and work in progress?
It is very good.
Mr. President, last year Uganda conducted the elections and you were re-elected as the president. But here comes the tough question. Some have branded you an autocrat, someone who wants to stay in power. Some have even called you an oppressor because of the violence meted out by the Ugandan police on opposition figures and some of your critics. Sir, what do you tell those who call you a dictator, an oppressor, an autocrat, and someone who disregards human rights?
Well, if I am a democratic dictator, it must be an interesting one. Because I always win elections on the first round. So that means that the majority of Ugandans think that my party and what I represent is good. So to call such a person an autocrat is really not serious, in my opinion.
What about
and for the violence? The violence. Yes, the security forces can make their own mistakes, and we punish them, and we criticize them, we educate them. But the original problem is always started by the indisciplined opposition who try to attack civilian, innocent people, to damage their property. We are still building infrastructure in our country. The streets are not very wide because we started from a very low base. We had to spread the roads in the countryside. So the streets in the capital are not very wide. So when they come to demonstrate, to block transport, and to do it on busy days in the markets, that's how the police say, no, don't do this. If you want to demonstrate, go to Kororo in the Peninsula ground, which is free. Don't come and damage people's property. These are the contradictions I normally have with the police.
Mr. President, let me ask you this. If you mention or if you say that the leaders of the opposition protest and demonstrate, isn't that their right to demonstrate? Isn't that their right to show their, their right to even vote, to speak to the electorate? And when it comes to the cases of Kizza Besigye, he's been imprisoned a couple of times. He's been out of prison lately. Would you say that someone like Kizza Besigye or Bobi Wine are attacking people? Why would you say that, Mr. President?
Why do you demonstrate in a market? The market is where poor people are selling their ritual products. I don't know what part of Kenya you come from, but if somebody was demonstrating in your garden, in Kiambu, they come and hold a demonstration in your potato garden, is that politics or is that crime? So we say, if you want to demonstrate, agree with the police where you should pass, which does not interfere with people's activities and properties. That's all.
So to you, the problem is demonstrating?
No, it's not demonstrating. It is where and how to demonstrate.
Okay.
Where? You cannot demonstrate in people's gardens. And you call that a demonstration. You call that malicious damage to property. Demonstrate where there is you are not interfering with other people's rights.
You have defeated Bobi Wine. Have you reached out to Bobi Wine?
We have got an organization called iPod, Interparty organization or something like that, where every political party is welcome. If Bobi Wine wants to join the iPod, he's most welcome.
All right, Mr. President, allow me to move away from that and also allow me to ask you this question. You have been president of Uganda since 1986. Will you ever retire from politics? And you have always said there is no right or ripe leader for Ugandans. Who is this right leader that you refer to?
Our principles are four. I don't know whether you have heard of them.
Tell me.
Patriotism within Uganda. That means love Uganda. Don't tell us about tribes. Don't tell us about religious sectarianism, Pan-Africanism, socio-economic transformation, democracy. Anybody who supports those and is committed can be chosen by our people to be their leader, as long as he can convince them that he's genuine and serious.
Okay, so in the past elections, you've competed with the likes of Kizza Besigye, like I mentioned, and Bobi Wine. Did they not have these values?
They didn't have, for sure. For sure, they didn't have. Otherwise, if they had, they would not leave NRM. NRM, they wouldn't form these other parties. They didn't have them, for sure.
The war in Ukraine seems to be affecting Africa more. Your country is among several countries in Africa that are facing a food crisis. Heads of government have raised the issue about grain shortage and supplies. Generally, what is your view about Russia's invasion of Ukraine?
We didn't support the motions which were in the UN. We abstained. So our position is that they should negotiate. They should not fight. We didn't condemn Russia, which is what the other Western countries wanted us to do, because we heard that Russia had their own issues, and the Western countries have their own double standards. So that's why for us, we kept away. We didn't take sides. As for in Uganda, yes, there is a problem of wheat. and a problem of vegetable oil for soap. But of course, in Uganda, we have other foods. We've got our own foods, the traditional foods, which we are quite plenty. But the problem now is caused by fuel, because even if you have our own food, like the bananas, like the cassava, to transport it from the village, you need lorries. That's what is bringing up inflation. So it is really the biggest problem is for us is fuel and vegetable oil. But that one we are ramping up. We are going to produce. We are planting more palm oil. We are planting more sunflower. We shall be self-sufficient in the next 2 or 3 years. The only other problem is the fuel, the petrol and the diesel.
Mr. President, there is fear that a recession is imminent. Do you believe that?
Yes, they can, because they are mismanaging the whole world. These wonderful players, they are mismanaging the whole world. So a recession can come. Why not? Because people, I have been watching in Europe, the families can't, they don't have enough money to buy the basics.
As a head of state, what would you advise those countries that you mentioned in Europe and in the United States?
They should negotiate. They should negotiate.
Mr. President, let's not forget about the pandemic. You are on record advising Ugandans to go the traditional way to heal or even fight the coronavirus. With the infection rate surging, do you still feel traditional medicine will be the answer? And what are your views about COVID vaccine and the issue of vaccine inequality in the continent?
I never said go traditional. I said there are traditional solutions which are antiviral. Like one of them called COVID-X, which has healed people here. Our people in one part of the country, in Teso, they used to use that product against measles. Then, because of the education, our young people from those families, when they got university education and science, they looked back and they said, but if this was treating measles, which is caused by a virus, maybe it can also treat this one. And when they tried it, it worked. It has saved so many people, the COVID. So it's not the traditional, just blind belief. It is based on science. And of course, I support the vaccine. We are trying to develop our own vaccines here. I support vaccines, but I also support the research for the antiviral solutions and antibacterial for the other bacterial infections.
Mr. President, allow me to remind you, you haven't spoken about vaccine inequality in the continent. Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta has been fighting about vaccine inequality in the WHO. What do you feel about this vaccine inequality in the continent? Do you think this is something that should be addressed?
Well, it was good that the Europeans told us that if you are stupid and you don't build up your own capacity, you die. I have no problem with inequality because they told us exactly the truth. For me, I actually welcomed it, and I told Ugandans, if you don't want to die, produce the vaccines. Why don't we produce the vaccines? What are we for? So here we are really gearing up for what we call the pathogenic economy. The pathogenic economy, these diseases are diseases, but they are also wealth. We can make money. We can make money out of these diseases, and we have started. In Uganda, we have started because we have factories there which produce anti-AIDS. The ARVs, they're called what? What is Cipla? Cipla, it's called We started long ago. We warned our people that these diseases are a problem, but they are also an opportunity. So let's develop the pathogenic economy instead of following. Europeans are busy. They want to save their own people. Why should they care about Africans? I'm not bothered with that myself.
Okay, Mr. President, finally, what is your message to the millions of Ugandans who will watch this conversation, and what is the legacy that you would want the world to remember you for?
For developing and transforming Uganda.
Thank you so much, sir. The President of the Republic of Uganda, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, thank you for making time and for talking to We On World is One today.
Thank you.
And thank you for your time and for watching this edition of We On Global Leadership Series with me, Eric Njoka. We On is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.